welcome back to my series on my levels from Lemmings Plus. Today we're going to be looking at the first half of the Wimpy levels, giving some comments, etc., talking about the background behind them. So I take it you've already hopefully seen the ones on the mild levels, or maybe skipped them because there's not that much interesting to say about them. But yeah, we're going to pick up from Wimpy today. Now I'll enter the code for the first level so that we don't skip to the last one at first. So I've got here Lemming Niche, which is a pretty small, simple level. It was like a lot of early levels. It was a case of the repeat version being created, then this being sort of used to fill in the earlier spaces. It's, well, obviously quite an easy level, definitely easier than the levels towards the end of Mild, which is kind of what I feel the original game did as well, like tricky 1, 2, 3, a lot easier than the late levels in Fun. So I've just sort of gone for the same sort of thing here. But yeah, one thing that's commented on sometimes is how if lemons do come up here, they just fall and go back around. That's obviously a very intentional part of the design, because if the star wasn't in the way, they'd fall and split. But yeah, not that much to see here. So we'll go on to level 2, which is Lucky Charm. This level is, again, it's sort of just a dumbed down version of a later level, filling up space. And yeah, so it's a fair bit trickier than the last one, still fairly easy though. And there's definitely a fair bit to say about this when we get to its repeat, which is towards the end of the MIDI rating. Its repeat is another really popular level, this one, not really anything special about it. It's level 3, just for fun, and this is, again, same formula. Again, it's one that comes towards the end of MIDI. In fact, these two are actually the other way around when they're repeated. There's another level in between them, if I remember correctly, but yeah, this one is repeated at MIDI 22, the previous one at MIDI 24. And yes, I don't remember offhand what the level in between them was. Oh yes, the in between one is a repeat of a mild level. So anyway, so this one's fairly simple, straightforward design. Bit of terrain here. Small gap in the exit. I'd say easier than the previous level, harder than the one before it. So again, we've got that sort of up-down difficulty curve going. But yeah, we're still at the point where the levels are quite easy. It's a fairly easy mistake to make there. You bomb too close to the edge, and well, that's not as bad as the results could have been, but to level 4, you spin me right round like a record, baby, right round, round, round. This is obvious clear filler level, and it was reused, made a repeat from it as another filler level, which is actually exactly the same but with more lemmings, which means you've got to contain them. Now, it may not seem too hard, except this level and its repeat only give you builders to work with. So in this early version it's not too bad, and the repeat it's a bit trickier. But yeah, it's a very quickly slapped together design, and it's not really a level that I think was too impressive. But level 5 get together. Now this is getting back into the later level made into an earlier one to fill up a slot. This level is actually one of the Psycho levels, so in its repeat version. Now originally this level had a bit more space out the side here. When it was moved to Neo Lemmings, the space was cut out, and originally the repeat could be solved either going through here or going out the side, but in new versions you've only got the solution through this bit, which does make it a little bit harder. It's still one of the easier of the Psycho levels, but not as easy as it used to be. The design was mostly based around that idea, having like 4 entrances that you have to get together as such. 2 pathways, and again this is a downgraded version of a later level, nothing really special about it. Slots here are meant to imply that you like drop bombers into them, but that's not actually how the repeat is solved. It's sort of like a decoy solution as such. And yeah, in this version there's not really much to say about the level apart from that this exit here is really pointless. I mean, it is functional, it's not a fake one or anything, but chances are you're not going to be rescuing too many lemmings through it when this one's so much easier to get to, so... yeah, so level 7, and here we have our first repeat version of the no salvation level, which is, as I mentioned before, it occurs once per rank. So there's not much new to say here. At this early point, you can generally solve them all the same way. I mean, it's fairly easy to solve up to the midi version. The danger one, you can use the same solution, but it's a bit trickier to pull off. And then Psycho, obviously you need a completely different solution than what you've been using before, unless you've been using the Psycho solution since day one, but... so yeah, not really that much to see here. Again, we're using that 1 pixel of safety there. Okay, it's not the video lagging there, that's just the game itself lagging a bit when I hit the spacebar to skip. I don't know why it sometimes does that, sometimes doesn't. You'd think it would be flawless since I'm running on a pretty new computer, but might be just that I've got too much stuff running in the background. Okay, so level 8, also they are ninjas, in parenthesis. Now the most common thing I get asked about this level is what is the title a reference to? It's actually a Family Guy reference. The episode, well, one of several episodes where Peter ends up destroying TV. In this one he decides, I'll invent my own sitcom in his head. And he goes on, he's got this theme song about his black kid. And then at the end, after the fairly generic song, he adds, also he's a ninja. And basically that was the inspiration for the title of this level. In terms of the level itself, it's a fairly regular level. You don't have climbers or floaters, but it's not that hard to get by without them. This is another one that's like sort of an easier-fied version of a later repeat level. The repeat for this one is, I believe, Danger 12. It's probably one of the mid-range danger levels in terms of difficulty. But in its Wimpy version, this level isn't too bad. It's level 9. It's a thin line. This is also an easier 5 repeat of a danger level, and these two levels, actually, when they're repeated, they also appear right next to each other. Danger 12, Danger 13. That was quite a common thing in the original Lemmings game, like, to give some examples, 15, 16, okay, they're taxing 1 and 3, they've got a unique level in between, and then a bit later on, taxing 6 is a repeat of Fun 17, then you've got taxing 7, 8, which are tricky 4 and 5 repeated. There's several cases like that in that game. But here in Lemmings Plus, it's actually a fairly rare setup to have, so this is one of the cases where it does occur. The level itself requires a bit of quick action to get through these poles here. Well, it does depend how you're doing it. It's still not a particularly difficult level, it's just really an average worker lemmingy one. Just build across the gap, bash through the poles on the way, and you're home. So level 10, Labyrinth of the Spear. Now this is a unique level, no repeat, not a repeat of anything, and it's also quite a popular level. I'm not overly fond of it myself, but yeah. It was actually remade for a Lix community level pack. I believe it was Clam who remade it. Might have been Proxima, I'm not 100% sure there. But in that one they made it 3 of everything, and it was one of the hardest levels in the pack. This version, of course, being an early level, is a lot easier. You do have the fatal drop there, and you've got less floaters than you do of everything else. You've got to act quickly to catch up the gap. Beyond that, there's not that much challenging in this level. From there it's just make a path to the exit basically. No real worker lemming as such, because you're kind of already contained once you've sealed off that fatal fall. But yeah, I intended to make the level a bit more complex in this, but I realised working with bricks this size, it takes up the space pretty quickly, and I didn't want to make it more than one screen with the whole multitasking thing going on. So it ended up being quite a small level in the end. Back before this level was moved to Neo Limix, it was actually a really nice solution, obviously involving exploiting a lot of glitches, that completed this level using only one builder. Obviously other skills as well, but as far as builders went, only one of them, so... this replay doesn't seem to have put the release rate up. There we go, that's better. So yeah, I don't know, in my opinion it's not a real standout level. Some other people disagree, that might be influenced from the Lux remake of it. But anyway, level 11, which is the Flagpole. Now this level, as you might be able to tell, is actually somewhat inspired by one of the early Lemmings 3D levels, Fun 7 if I remember correctly. It's basically a simple issue of having a one-way wall, which the original intention was you climb up, bomb, bash through, come backwards, but of course you can just go under it. This level is repeated, and the repeat is probably the easiest level in Danger. It's way out of place, but it's a typical thing with the Lemmings Plus series, having a few levels that are way too easy for their position. But it's also the first level to not really give you a X of everything skill set, or to specifically focus on one or two skills. So in that regard, it's sort of picking up a bit as far as Wimpy levels go. So on to level 12, which is Russian Rescue. Now this level was it's the first in level order, and it's one of the levels that was replaced in the V7 update of Lemmings Plus I. So originally there was a level here called Life, the Universe and Everything, which is a play on like the whole thing from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the answer to Life, the Universe and Everything being 42. And this is the 42nd level in Lemmings Plus I. Now, because of this level being put in later, it's actually, well, partly because of that, it's actually very out of place difficulty-wise, so this is by far the hardest level so far, and I'd say it remains the hardest level up until around the start of Medi, where there start to be levels that are a bit harder. So, yes, this level, like most of the version 7 changes, actually came from a planned sequel that never ended up getting very far. I've made probably about 10-15 levels for it. I got sick of making them, so what I did was I took the best of them and used them to replace some not so great levels from Lemmings Plus I. And now of course eventually we did get a sequel in the form of Lemmings Plus II, but that was a different project. The original sequel wasn't going to have the custom graphic sets or anything, it was just going to be basically another level pack. And yes, this is one of the levels that was in it. I believe it was renamed from what it was going to be in that. I sort of went with a whole emo-y, deep so-called theme for the level names, and most of them were changed when they were ported back into Lemmings Plus I. The only one that wasn't was Medi 21, which kept the name it had for the new pack. But yes, so this is, yeah, the first really hard level in Lemmings Plus I. I mean, it's simple compared to a lot of the Danger and Psycho levels, but for its position it is a really challenging level. One common mistake people make is bashing through and coming here immediately. It can be solved that way, but often you'll end up with a lemming or two slipping past the blocker, and since you need to save everyone except the blocker, that doesn't work out so well here. Another easy mistake is missing the build here and building too early or too late. And when this level was converted to Neo Lemmings, this here had to have a slight modification because the climber would just attempt to climb and then turn around. So one pixel of this has actually been removed so that he can step up this bit here. Doesn't really affect anyone else's, no one else but the climber can actually get to this. So that's, yeah, Russian Rescue. And before we go on to level 13, I'll show you the level that was originally placed at Wimpy 12, which is this, oh no, not this one. This one, Life, the Universe and Everything, which as you can see is a pretty boring worker lemming level, just centered around the whole 42 thing. There's a little introductory note here about what this rank is. And yeah, it says it was removed due to being too bland and boring, which, yeah. So it's kind of like same sort of theme as all the 6s from DOS Lemmings, except it's centered around 42, not 6. The whole what you get 6 times 9 thing, that's just more references to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Basically the idea was the ultimate answer to Life, the Universe and everything was 42. The question was, what do you get if you multiply 6 by 9? I mean, some in-depth analyses would say that like it's a bug because of storyline events, which I won't go into. Others will note that in base 13, 6 times 9 is indeed 42, or I should say 42. But yeah, this level itself is basically just a matter of build over the gaps, and you've got the longest time limit of any Lemmings Plus level ever developed, unless you count the Lemmings Plus Omega levels and Holiday Lemmings Plus levels, where some of them don't have time limits, or in game it refers to it as infinite time. But yes, the levels that do have a time limit, this is the longest by far. I don't think there's any others that go over 9 minutes. Wait, no, there's that one in Lemmings Plus 3 that's got a 10-minute time limit, but yeah. Okay, so that's the old level that was Wimpy 12. So now that that's out of the way, we'll go back to the Wimpy levels. So Wimpy 13, a magician would be handy, a very annoying, long, boring level as well. It's basically you've got steel in the way of the exit and you've got to go the long way around it. Before the move to Neolemmix, you could also just glitch your way through it, but yeah. Now, realising that this was quite a long, drawn-out level, originally it had 30 of everything. When it was moved to Neolemmix, it was upgraded to 40 of everything. Most levels didn't have changes beyond what was necessary to keep them working, but this is one level that did have quite a bit of change. Well, not quite a bit, but more than most. There are some levels with more significant change, especially towards the end of Danger and throughout Psycho. And this is another unique level, so no repeats, no earlier versions. I don't really think there's much you could do with this one, since it's mostly just a build fest and then getting around this terrain at the bottom here. So yeah, easiest way to handle this is to bomb your way up. It's possible to use miners and bashes to do it. If you want to save 100%, which is possible, it needs a bit of creative tricks around top bit here. One way to do it is to build to this and sort of use it as a wall. Okay, so that's level 13 down. So level 14, head east or west, and this is another long drawn out boring level. They sort of get like that around middle of Wimpy, and again it comes back to my whole thoughts with level 14s from the original. It's also like that in Lemmings Plus. All the level 14s tend to be like sort of longish drawn out ones. I suppose Medi 14 isn't so bad, but apart from that, so this is one like you've got a genuine choice of which way you want to go. You can go this exit or this one. But either way, it's a very easy level with the overly abundant skill set, and this one has always been 40 of everything. It's not a change in the new version. And again, this is another unique level. Also another snow level, 2 in a row, when snow is one of the most unused graphic sets in this pack. But yeah, nothing really special about this level. It's not an overly great one, it's really just a filler. So level 15, which is just when you think you know. And the logic behind the name of this one is basically that these bits at the start here make it very hard to contain the lemmings. Of course, since you don't have to save too many, there's easy ways around it. And if you've played my early cheapo levels, you'll very much recognise this kind of design. It's basically one of my signature level designs from back then, known as by the name of the first level using it, which was Oblivion. Indeed, towards the end of this pack, there is an actual, well, there's a repeat of this level, which is titled Oblivion, uses the same trick, so it's one of the levels that was genuinely remade from cheapo. And I mean, it's a level that I kind of got a bit obsessive over when I first came up with the concept. I made like how many levels using the same idea. But anyway, so that's it for the first half of Wimpy. Get on to the second half of it at a and maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see what I feel like doing. But yeah, there's, I'd say, second half of Wimpy and especially start of Midi is where it'll start to get interesting. I'll probably be able to have a bit more to say about levels. We'll encounter a few more replace levels once we get into Midi. I don't think there's any more in Wimpy as such, so enjoy and have a good day.